Hello, everybody. Good to have you back again. I'm just waiting for Janice to join. I've sent her a request.
Guess who's
Oh,
here?
Kitty! Vincent! How sweet is that?
Oh my God.
Hello! Oh my God.
He's, I know, he's
Oh,
adorable. He's very hungry, so I'm going to let him go. But I just wanted everyone to
yes.
say hi to
Oh,
Vincent and to put a face to the meow, basically.
yes. And we love you, Vincent, and we love your meow.
He's gone for
That
dinner.
was VIP giving his little appearance and going off.
Yeah. He's just
Okay.
star appearance.
Yes, star appearance. So yes, all of you, welcome
So
back.
sweet. Thank you
Yes,
for coming back. Thank you for coming, for being here. Yes,
yes.
everyone sort of lovely, Vincent, so cute. I will convey all your messages to Mr. Vincent, who is at this moment stuffing his face and
Good.
paying us
Yeah.
no heed. Yeah, tell me.
Okay. So now we come to the fun part. Tell us what book is on your bedside table right now,
Oh,
currently.
actually, I'm reading Mustache by S.
Oh,
Harish, which
yes, it
just
won
as
the JCB prize.
yes, and so funny
Yes.
because I just started the book on the day that the JCB prize was announced. So I was just like, oh my God, this is such wonderful serendipity, and it's such a fantastic book. I can't recommend it enough. It's what I would call a really wild and unruly novel. Sort of using storytelling in a very, very interesting way. A
I'm
story
told
within a
that's also an
story.
experimental piece of fiction, and a very unique. I haven't read it, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like it also echoes a lot of our own storytelling traditions within sort of, India, Southeast Asia, this kind of region. I mean, I talk about oral storytelling as though it's some kind of thing that only happens in the Khasi Hills in Meghalaya, but we live in the most incredibly, you know, rich sort of
Absolutely.
part of the world when it comes to oral traditions. All of us,
In fact, I
all of
wanted to
us.
just,
Yeah,
share one incident from my life when you say
yeah,
oral storytelling. In Bengal,
yeah,
we say golpo for a story is a golpo, right?
yeah,
So I
yeah,
had my grandmother who would tell us stories,
yeah.
and me and my brother, we would sit around her, and whenever we wanted to listen to stories from her, we would say GOLPO. So, whenever we would
Oh,
say
cute.
GOLPO, that would mean that you have to tell us a
Perfect.
story. So,
Yes,
you're true. I mean, it's there in our country, not
absolutely. Absolutely, and in such
so.
rich and varied ways. And what worries me is that, we've come to rely on literature being so much about the written that we then dismiss or don't recognize the literature that is not written, that exists as orality. And that
Absolutely.
renders places with no, long writing tradition, it renders a place like that as having no stories, which is so untrue. But it's not on any literary map. It's not Delhi, it's not
True.
Bombay, but all
It's not
across.
saleable.
Exactly. I mean, I've always wondered why, if we have literary festivals, why don't we have oral storytelling gatherings?
That would be
You
such a
know,
beautiful,
bring
that
in
would be such a beautiful
storytellers from
initiative.
Rajasthan, from Mizoram, from Meghalaya, from Assam, from Kerala, just bring in storytellers. I would love for something like
And
that.
that would actually cater to the entire gamut of young kids to from 8 to
Yeah,
80. Because
absolutely.
usually literary fests are very targeted at adults, and there's a small little section on children, but
Kid.
generally
Yeah.
it's for adults. So that actually is a fabulous idea.
Yeah.
So my other question is there or are there books which
Yeah.
you like to go back to, you like to reread, which have
Yeah,
left a big impression for you? Whether it
yeah,
was, in your earlier years or maybe in your teens, or
yeah,
any book as such.
yeah. That's a really good question, and I have to admit, with some amount of shame, that I'm a very bad rereader. Um,
Okay.
Only because I feel like this desperate urgency that there are so many books and
Books
I
to
will
read
just
and
never
so little
have,
time.
yes, and so little time. And how will I, like, that is actually like something that keeps me up at night. Like, how will I finish all the books that I want to finish in this lifetime? So it really does worry me a lot, Marwa. You have no idea. So I'm a very bad rereader, I have to admit. But there is a particular small little novella that I go back to every few years. And we know what they say about rereading, right? Rereading is about actually confronting yourself and how you have changed
Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
from the last time that you read something. So this little book is called Utz, UTZ, and it's a small little novella by a writer named Bruce Chatwin, and it is about this man, this sort of um, elderly-ish gentleman who loves art, and it is
Okay.
so much about the power of art. And he's living in a fascist sort of, regime, a fascist sort of setup. But his relationship with art is what keeps him sort of alive in some ways. And it's a small book, but it's just, it's powerful and incredible. And I reread it also because it's small and it doesn't take me too much time, but also because
But
I love it. Yeah.
thank you for the suggestion. And are there any movies you go back to?
Hmm. I
Or
don't
some,
know.
some of your favorite movies, maybe? Would
Yeah,
love to
yeah.
know that.
I don't know if this has happened to all of you as well over lockdown, but I've found myself going back to the past quite a lot. So I've been
Same here.
listening to, yeah, okay. I think because,
Yes, yes.
the present is so precarious and the future is absolutely sort of unknown in so many more ways now, that we kind of look back to the past to perhaps, I don't know, seek that kind of sense of safety that we felt maybe
The
when we were younger.
familiarity,
Yeah. So
it
I've
sort
been
of
listening
wraps
to a
you like a
lot of,
warm cocoon,
yes,
okay, that's
exactly.
familiar.
Yes, exactly. So I've been listening to a lot of old music, sort of stuff from my growing up years, and going back to some older, movies that I remember watching, at university or in school. One of them being Almost Famous, which I love. I don't know if any of you
Yes,
might have
I've
watched
watched
it.
it. Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I just love that kind of, it's sweet and sad and full of incredible music and just these, wonderful characters. And yeah, that's something that I've gone back to strangely
And what's the
in
kind of
this
music that you're
lockdown.
listening to?
Oh, like I said, stuff from my growing up years. So the most cheesy, like, pop songs. This is so embarrassing. But from the late 90s or like the early 2000s, when it was the age of the girl band and the boy band and all of that. Um, it's
So
not
all the Backstreet Boys, the
not
Best Life.
that much pop. I have to admit it's slightly more alternative, like Smash
Okay.
Mouth or um, Bare Naked Ladies or
Ah,
Marcy Playground, slightly more alternative, which is what I was
okay.
listening to and feeling very cool at like 15. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, God, I've just given you all a glimpse into my past. It's so funny.
Somebody was asking here, would you like to recommend some poets who you love or
Oh,
who we
oh,
should read?
so many, so many. Elizabeth Bishop, for sure, who is just such an incredible sort of master of form. from our own sort of pool of poets, Vivek Nambisan, who's no more, but incredible poet. Jeet, who I think is
Jeet Thayil, yeah.
is a poet. Tishani, whose poetry is
Tishani, I love
philosophy,
Tishani's poems,
so
yes.
powerful and so sort of resilient. Her poems. Yeah, who else do I have on my shelf? I'm just looking. Of course, then some of the, the classic sort of American, Sharon Olds, Mary Oliver, Gregory Orr, who I've been reading a lot because they have that, I think, buoyancy about them and their
Absolutely.
words that's, like you said earlier, that's comforting. And, you can
Mary
see.
Oliver, I think I've been reading almost like 2-3 poems per week. Her poems just, nourish you, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah, exactly.
and,
That's the right word. Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. In fact, I've had some Insta lives with some friends on
Yeah,
Mary Oliver where we've
yeah.
discussed Mary Oliver and their poems and, her
Fantastic.
essays, in fact, you
Oh,
know.
how
Uh,
fantastic. Yeah,
yeah,
no, I love that
so
we seek solace in sort of such similar things. Yeah.
yes, yes. And, I wanted to ask you one thing, in fact, when you just mentioned Tishani Doshi, and
Yeah.
um, I've noticed in Tishani Doshi's poems, which are absolutely brilliant, and because they
Yeah.
sort of move you and with
Yeah.
their, powerful words,
Yeah.
is, I noticed there are some people who, when they see large events happening around them, and
Yeah.
particularly in Tishani Doshi's poem, and I see that happening, I see her poems reflecting that, it is powerful, it hits you.
Yeah. Yes.
And so once in a while, I ask myself, because this is something I feel personally, is
Yeah.
these kind of events, hits me, and that's the time I want to write because it
Yeah.
hurts inside.
Yeah.
But then not all of the poems leave you with a very positive feel, because you're speaking about your vulnerability, your hurt.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder, do poems or poetry always have to be Mary Oliverish kind, which sort of make
Right.
you feel nourished?
Yeah.
Or should there be a balance between, okay, let's
Yeah.
also talk about what hurts us, what sort of
Yeah.
hits us,
Yeah.
whether it's the
Yeah.
migrant, uh,
Yeah.
the issue which we had a few months back. And in fact, I wrote a poem on
Yeah.
that. But I
Yeah.
always tend to fall into the thing of, whenever I read something and it
Yeah.
really affects me badly, and that's the time I want to write.
Right. Yeah. Of course, there's no right or wrong way to do this, right? And this is what makes literature, poetry, writing so thrilling and so difficult, because there are no right ways or wrong ways to do anything, really. It is so much about a personal response, and what moves you and what kind of artist and person you are. Um, you know, if you're someone who responds like you, quite urgently and quickly to something that's happened, or are you someone who needs to put it away and unpack it so that it can be written about later. And of course, the balance between sadness and and nourishment, I think, actually are found even in Mary Oliver's poems, right? I think she
Yes,
makes
yes,
it,
there's so much.
exactly. So I feel like that kind of balance, it reminds us that, this is all we have. um, this is it, and how you can make the most of that. So it's
Absolutely.
of course terribly, um, um, it is terribly sad, but at the same time, it's also very hopeful. And I think that balance is so difficult to do, but is important to do, and it can come through in so many ways, whether you're responding right there, in the heat of the moment with all your fury, or if you retreat and you process and you write about other things, or you write about that thing in a slightly more tangential manner, right? There are so many responses that poets, artists
True.
can have to the world, that it's impossible to pin down, really. Yeah. Mhm.
Right. So my last two questions, and
Mhm.
in this last few months, we've seen so many public spaces closing
Yeah,
indefinitely, whether it's libraries, museums, concert
yeah,
halls,
yeah,
parks, wherever. Um, is there a space or a community which you miss the most, where
yeah,
you want to go back to the first thing when all this ends?
yeah. I think just being in the company of friends in the
Friends.
most sort of, in the most casual, the most sort of worried way. I miss that casualness of just being in touch in the most literal way. And I don't really care where that happens, to be honest. I just, it can happen in a park, in someone's home. Um, I really miss that. I miss that sort of that casual proximity,
Absolutely.
And I don't think I'll ever take that for granted, or at least I say this now. We have such short memories, don't we? But it feels like I will never sort of, take that for granted again. This casualness of touch that I really miss, and which leads to other things, right? Concerts, watching plays, watching movies together, traveling together, all of these things that just can be done anywhere, but with people that you care about and want to surround yourself with. I think we've all
Really.
missed that,
Aren't
right?
we all hoping for that
Yeah,
to get back
absolutely.
to that space?
Yeah,
Really, really.
yeah.
Um, Lastly, I know you're a professor and you're also sort of shaping young minds,
Oh my
uh, sort
God.
of in whichever way. Uh, this is just a thought that if there were two or three things that you would like,
Yeah,
say, for every school or college soft board, to have on their board, two, three
yeah,
lessons or two, three piece of advice which you want to give
yeah,
to the young generation. What do you think it can be? It can be, anything possible,
yeah.
anything that your heart desires.
No, well, actually, the thing that I would tell anyone, regardless of whether they are, young in years or not, is something that someone once told me a long while ago, and that I really hold quite close to my heart. And really, I find that it helps me do what I do, which is write and tell stories. And the thing that I would put up on this on this board, on the Mahua board, would be, no one else can tell your story. Um, I think it's so important that we feel that our stories are worth telling. Um, that it's not just about writing the perfect sentence and, becoming this incredible writer, this incredible wordsmith, which are important, of course. But you cannot begin that journey if you don't feel that your story is not worth telling.
It's worth
And
telling.
that's
Yeah.
the place to start for anyone, for whatever kind of form of expression they want to set out on after, whether it's painting or writing or music. You have to feel that what you want to say is worth telling, and that is the place, that is the only place to start.
That's so wonderful. So here, don't want to take any more time from you. You've given us so much time. So thank you, Janice, for this wonderful conversation and for this wonderful, kind of a fireside telling, uh, where we really felt as if we are sitting around
Um,
and listening to you. So may you continue to tell more stories, and we are looking forward to your next book. And when will that be? When will that be out?
so it's really in the form of a decent-ish draft at the moment, and is
Okay.
with a friend, sort of for feedback. I'm waiting for a friend to get back to me with all his feedback. So we'll see. I think after that, it will be sent out into the world um, soon-ish. But to just go back to what you were saying before this, I just want to say thank you as well. And I've had such a
My
wonderful
pleasure,
time.
my pleasure.
This has been so much fun, and I want to say thank you to everyone who's been here and kind of been
Yes,
listening to
thank
us.
you.
And yeah, and cheers again. This is my tea, and Mahua, I hope that one day we can actually sit across casually
Yes,
from each
yes, yes.
other
And
and
say cheers in person.
yes, yes, absolutely. I hope for
I
all
would
of us
love that. I
we
know,
can
I
do
would love
that
that.
soon. Yeah,
Really,
yeah,
really. Before we end, I just wanted to read out something
yeah,
and then end.
yeah,
This is a line from a piece I read, which was written by the Nigerian poet Ben Okri, and
yeah.
it says, "It may well be that it is not only self-isolation and science that will save us. We may also be saved by laughter, by catharsis, by the optimism of being able to see beyond these times with stories, with community, with songs."
Oh,
So,
that was just utterly beautiful. Thank
I know,
you.
isn't it? On that note, thank you, Janice Pariat, for the wonderful books that you've written, for your Janice Pariat genre of writing, which should be a module in all creative writing courses.
You're too
And
sweet.
we look forward to more books from you, more beautiful posts from you on Instagram, more stories which you shared with us yesterday, a beautiful story. And yes, thank you so much. And a big virtual hug, I know,
Big, big
to
hug.
you.
Yes,
And a
and to
big
you.
hug to all of you actually who've tuned in, who've come back, and who were there for the conversation. Some of the comments, I'm sorry, I may not have been able to read while it was scrolling up. I just caught the last few and I handled a couple of questions. So thank you so much, Janice. And bye-bye.
Bye, my
And have
dear.
a lovely Sunday. Bye. Good night. Bye. So that was Janice Pariat, and a big thanks to all of you who've tuned in. Thanks for being there, right? For almost 1.5 hours we've been here, and I hope you enjoyed this session of Mooka Moments. It was such a wonderful session with Janice, and looking forward to more such sessions in the future. So till then, stay safe, all of you. Keep reading, keep listening to music, keep doing things which give you joy, right? Till then, take care and stay safe. Bye bye, all of you.